30. The mayor is out today, so I will be filling in for him. We'll start with the call to order.
All right, roll call, Mayor Boren, absent. Councilmember Perry,
Here.
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveris,
Here.
Councilmember Starnes,
Here.
Councilmember Melton.
Here.
All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance Now join me for join us for the invocation, please.
Let us bow our heads, please. We're going to pray for the human family. Oh God, you made us in your own image and redeemed us through Jesus Christ, your Son. Look with compassion on the whole human family. Take away our arrogance and hatred which infects our hearts. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in bonds of love and work through our struggles of confusion to accomplish your purpose here on earth, that in your good time all nations and races may serve you in harmony around your heavenly throne. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
All right, we will move on to citizen communication. And we have Miss Jeanette Behrens.
Good evening, all. My name is Jeanette Behrens, and I live on Travis Street. What I'm going to say might offend somebody, and I don't mean it to be that way, because some of you are my friends or acquaintances. But something is really bothering me, and it has to do with integrity. When we vote or people get assigned to positions, there has to be a high integrity. We all make mistakes in life. We all learn by mistakes. But when they're repetitive or we continue to do these things, then we need to look at each other as a team, and I'm talking about the city council and the city hall. And I just hope that things that has happened in the past or a few weeks ago, that we all look at that, and when we're deciding to vote on a person or parties, that we do look into that, and that we have a city council that is wholly shows integrity for the city of Rockdale. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. All right, that's all on citizen communication except for 2 items on the agenda. Is that correct, Kira? Is that your name twice?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or clarifications needed on consent agenda?
I make a motion that we adopt it as read.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion, well, I don't vote, do I? Do I vote? Okay. Motion carries 6-0. Item 7, presentations. Receive a report from Thyman Lachlan for an update on the granted hot fund request of the Milam Music Festival held on August 4th and 5th, 2023.
So overall, it was very successful, and not just in one way. There was a few ways that it came out more successful than I thought. Overall attendance was 215, and then for the hotel room count for the weekend was 47. And that's not including one hotel because they didn't have a tally of the number for people in attendance for the festival. Talking to a few people that showed up to the event, as far as I know, San Antonio was as far as I know for someone that's traveled to come to it. I like the support. I would love to continue to get the support, not only just for the event, but for all the local musicians to help them be able to turn that into a full-time gig instead of a part-time deal.
Was, did the facility work as
Yeah.
planned?
Yeah, it was good. The only thing I thought that it would be sprayed down for wasps and stuff, and one of the security guards ended up getting stung behind the ear. Other than that, everything was good.
Okay. I heard great things. I was unfortunately out of town that weekend, but I heard great things about it, and from the people I heard from as well said that they thought it was put together well as well. So, good job on that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
I did attend one evening and it was great. Of course, one of the things that I noticed and really spoke to my heart is that it was well attended by a lot of the youth in Rockdale. So kudos to you for putting that together for our kids. Thank you.
Yeah, surprisingly, most of the people showed up for the high school rapper and then the
Yeah.
high school rock band.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
Timer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bring it
you.
to us.
Next is item B, receive a report from Robert Echoes from Univista.
That'll work.
That work?
That works.
I didn't butcher it too bad?
Oh, not at all. Good evening. I appreciate y'all having me this evening. I guess we're going to go through kind of a history of what we've done since we came on, and then we'll talk about some of the items that we want to kind of bring forward through this year. So, as we took over from your previous IT company, we identified a couple things that need to be addressed. Mostly the end-of-life software that's running on the servers themselves. PD, we've already knocked that out, Chief. Good to see you, sir. So that was done in last year's fiscal year budget. Then one current is the City Hall that we're focusing on. So we've got some numbers in front of City Hall to kind of work on and figure out and move us forward. The reason why is because that operating system was end of life on the 4th, just a couple days ago. So we want to make sure that we can get new software in there, secure it, get it where it needs to be, updates, patching going as it goes, and then we'll move forward with that. We've phased out several projects that need to happen, and some of those we're working with Barbara and Roxanne on the 5-year outlook. So one of the things we like to do is we like to have a longevity plan. We don't like to just come in and stack projects on projects on projects. We want to make sure that we can phase those out as time goes along. So the second big one that we will end up having to do sooner than later is the switches, the network switches that are in place that provide connectivity throughout the infrastructure at all sites. So that's our second. That's phase 2 is the server. Phase 3 is the switches. Phase 4 will look at some the actual firewall replacements. That's the security devices that when the internet comes in, hits the firewall. That's basically the first layer of protection before it then hits the switches and it scatters data throughout the network itself. But that we're not even looking at until 24, 25. So some wins for us. We've got the city on a PC cycle plan. So what that means is instead of working on a machine, hey Shanna, that's 7, 8 years old, we're working towards getting some efficiency in getting a calendared cycle plan going to where you are phasing out the older machines as time goes along. As software is newer, software gets updates and patches, it takes a toll on the hardware itself. So if the hardware is not there, you'll get frustration from our members and our staff that basically say, hey, you know what, this machine was great a couple years ago, but it's not doing what it needs to do. What can I do to improve that? That's part of that, having a cycle in place. We were able to reuse the hardware that was from the previous IT vendor for the server infrastructure itself. So really what we're only doing now is we're replacing the end-of-life software that's built, that's attached to it, installed into the infrastructure itself. We've had a little hurdle with the SCADA system. I know that's been a big topic for a while. We've kind of rolled back a little bit because we know that SCADA infrastructure is extremely important to the city as a whole. So I know you guys are working on that, but as that continues to go, then we'll start rebudgeting around things that we can do to move the city forward. And then I think lastly, well, ongoing, we want to always reduce what we can. We don't want subscription-based products out there that are just being wasted. We don't want resources. If we can replace desktop units themselves with laptops for mobility, then we're not having a situation where there's a user that has a desktop and a laptop. No, let's create one environment so we're continually decreasing the amount of dependency. I know we're in a technology world, we need technology, but the idea here is that we're not just buying things to buy things. We're not replacing things just to replace things. We're trying to look at it as a more efficient, most efficient outlook that we can. That's it. That's where we're at so far. So, questions?
Question regarding, there's news that we hear periodically of cities, of areas where someone has come in and they attack how safe, how well are we prepared, how well are we protected from having that happen to us?
So there's no real good answer for that, but to your point, let's take your environment. We were able to completely take control over on your firewall devices themselves and secure your switches now. The security aspect is the operating system itself that I mentioned earlier about the server, and the switches is the main things that we want to update as soon as we can. That helps prevent intrusion from outside, people trying to find ways to get in. As always, cybersecurity training is huge. That's a part of what we have. We've rolled that out. So users will have specific modules that they do that train quarterly. We live in a world where cybersecurity is just a huge buzzword, and a lot of people like to throw that around. It's also a fear word. Ultimately, it is very important, but at the same time, I think from our ongoing analysis, the city's in a pretty good shape. What I do want to do is I do want to look at those devices, and we don't ever want anything to lapse, because if we can't get support from the vendor themselves, then we're in a position where we could be vulnerable. If you take a look at, I believe it was Baltimore about a year and a half ago, their biggest problem was once they were attacked and they were taken over, they had no access to any infrastructure whatsoever. They also were working on 15, 20-year-old equipment that nobody ever wanted to update. So in that case, from a security end-of-life standpoint, the city's in a pretty good state, but as I mentioned, the software, the end-of-life server lapsed about 5 days ago. So we have roughly about a month and a half worth of additional, I don't want to say patching, because Microsoft will basically say they cut it off no matter what. But we have some time and some other measures we can put into place that'll make sure that there's not really open holes. But the whole idea is that people are out there just constantly trying to figure out a way to get into something, to exploit something, to put someone at risk. So hopefully that answered your question. Very welcome.
Well, one of the big reasons you're standing there today is because of timely service calls when we needed help. I haven't heard anything about that in a long time, so I assume no news is good news.
It's apples and oranges, night and day difference from our previous vendor to Univista. We've had several issues come up over, a couple of issues come up over the last, 8 months or so. And it was a phone call, and they were on the phone, and it was fixed.
Good.
So I couldn't be more pleased with the service we're getting right now compared to what we were getting previously.
Good, that's what we were after. So.
Thank you, Chief.
And y'all working on City Hall now, or that's next?
They're working on the server.
City Hall's next. So PD's, it's not favoritism, but PD takes care of us, right? So that's our number one priority in most city environments is we've got to get them squared away first, so we know that that's working in the background. They're a 24/7 organization. Then we can actually plan out in time the things that we do with the local government City Hall environment. The only thing I didn't mention was the MDD. We put all new infrastructure in the MDD, So we're actually we're working on a project now to actually get them off of their hosted rack space environment as well, and get them into Microsoft 365 platform. So
Cool. Anything else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right. Receive a report from the Parks Board from Chair Benford Roberts.
Lisa's not here, so I was asked to make some comments on that. I reached out to her. She's not able to be here this evening, and we have some highlights of things that have happened. Electricity for lights at Moultrie Park has been done, and so we anticipate having lighting there probably by the end of the school year. I think May is a target date for that. There's continued ongoing work on fixtures for the restrooms and water faucets at Samuel Park. That's been an ongoing challenge with some vandalism that's going on periodically over there. We're wanting to add at least a picnic table and a trash can at Post Oak Park, which many people don't even know that Post Oak Park exists, but it's a very small park on the west side of town. Just right now, it's just kind of a hillside with trees and nothing there. So we're hoping to add at least a picnic table and maybe a trash can over there. Back to Samuel Park, we're looking into a plaque for that cottonwood tree that's there. We're told that that's the oldest and largest cottonwood tree in Milam County. And so they're looking into having something so that people know the treasure that tree is. And then some ongoing discussions on pickleball courts. They're coming. The question will just be the location of where they're going to be at. We've talked a little bit about maybe transitioning one of the tennis courts into 2 pickleball courts. We have one already at Moultrie Park. And then still envisioning things for Bridge Park, with that being a place where possibly in the future we could have festivals and other things going on there. I know that Friesen Nichols, is a part of what they are doing for us, has a parks and walking trails and component to that, so that's happening. And then lastly, I want to thank Janie Mendoza, who was a part of the Parks Board. She received a new job that has her out of town, and her hours at work and stuff just prevented her from remaining on the board. And so Judith Carver, who is a newer resident to Rockdale, has agreed to serve on the committee, and our next meeting is Thursday, October the 19th.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of trees, does the tree work fall under the parks? If it's in a park, does it fall under the Parks Department to figure out? We've got a lot of dead trees, and my fear is that something falls out of one of those trees if kids are in these parks. Is that something the park board needs to tackle and figure out a plan, or suggest a plan, or is that Public Works? How does that work? So in our cemeteries, the same thing. Our trees have just taken a beating over the last couple of years with heat and ice. And so if we could maybe get out there now while there's still leaves on them, we could identify which ones are dead or not, and maybe get rid of them over the course of the winter.
A long-term plan with our Earth Day for next year is we were going to target all of the city cemeteries for our projects, because we have seen the same thing. And so if they get it done before then, we'll find something else, but that is something that we were hoping to have the students work on this coming year.
Maybe we can get them out and y'all can put new ones in. All right. Thank you, Dave. Receive a report on preliminary sesquicentennial budget numbers. And I don't know, is there somebody to make this report, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what I put together in your packet has mostly been compiled by Kira, because she is the chair of coordination with all the other committees. So you can see an entire page of activities that are going to be happening from July 4th through July 15th. The actual 150th celebration is on July 15th. And then on the next page, we have what were padded numbers. Hopefully these are coming in high One of the goals that we have is that everybody comes in and that they are self-sufficient on their funding, although some won't be, like the $20,000 seed money for the drone, and there may be some seed money for the cowboy gala and some different things. But I think that if we're going to be safe if we budget about 100,000. We currently have a little over 260, bless you, in hot funds, and that still takes into account what we're going to need next year, or actually this fiscal year, for what we're looking to do in Jim's area with tourism.
Okay.
And you had asked us just not to nickel and dime you, but so that you could see overall what we could be doing. And so this is our best estimate for what's going to happen a little less than a year from now.
And does everything that's falling into the hot funds category fit hot funds as,
Oh, yes, sir.
as
Yes, sir. So there will be actual fundraising that occurs outside of the hot funds that will have a sesquicentennial fund account, and then we may be looking for the hot funds for particular areas.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of that? And I guess this is a living document, will be updated. Can we see this every other month or something like that as it
Absolutely.
develops?
Yep.
Questions? All right, moving on. Ordinances. Consider and take any necessary action on the second reading of an ordinance creating a tax increment reinvestment zone for the downtown East Cameron reinvestment zone for the city of Rockdale, Milam County, Texas.
Howdy, y'all. So this is second reading on the TERS number 2 ordinance. So this is creating our second tax increment reinvestment zone in town, like we've talked about for months now. This is to create a dedicated funding source for cleanup of along East Cameron Avenue and doing some placemaking stuff in downtown.
And this is the same as the first time that we looked at it? No
Right.
change,
The only difference is now, I think it's page 8 has the TERS board, the proposed TERS board.
Oh, okay.
And I saw that, and is that a board selected? How did that come to be? Who those people come to be?
Mayor appointments.
Okay.
So yeah, he's suggesting them, y'all are approving them.
And are all of these people aware that they've been
Yes.
voluntold?
Yes.
It is on, I can't remember where I saw it. You know where that list is? Anybody find that list?
I don't see it.
It may be in the,
Board membership.
I thought it was in the second one, wasn't it?
I think the ordinance was printed, but not the membership list.
It was in my agenda.
Yes, sir, it just wasn't
Wasn't.
copied out for this. So let me get it for you. We have,
When we approve this, are we also approving that board that you listed there? Is that correct?
Yes, right.
Yes.
So we do the second reading tonight, when do we actually vote it or not vote it in? Is it tonight?
This is,
This is it.
This is it.
This is voting it in.
position 1, we have Rick Eubank, whose term would expire in 2025. Shannon Cornegay, who would, although I think that's changed.
To Cassie Caffey, right.
Cassie Cathy, that would expire in 2024. Jeanette Behrens would expire October 1st, 2025. Margie Dunkel, October 1st, 2024. And Daniel Willie, October 1st, 2025.
so that's 6,
5, sir.
5. 2 on a 1 year, 2 year, 1
We've
year.
got 3 at 2025 and 2 at 2024.
Okay.
Remind me, can you repeat that as far as how the board was selected?
There were mayoral appointments. So we started off with those folks who applied for the tourism subcommittee that the MDD is doing. And so some of those folks, we presented them to mayor and said, hey, these folks are interested in serving in some capacity. Would you be interested in these being appointed for the TERS? So we reached out to 5 and they said yes.
Is that customary? Did we do that the right way? I don't want to do something, if we did it wrong, let's unwrong it now.
It could be done where every member has a vote and every member has a person that they put on. And I think we could actually divest this of the other action and approve the ordinance and then come back if you want to for the board of directors and look at that if that's something that you're interested in doing. And then let people make appointments if they want to. Because, it could be a mayoral appointment, it could be a council appointment, it could be really however you want to set it up.
I don't have a preference one way or the other, but if somebody else does, I can
I
understand that.
do have just a bit of a reservation, only because there might be other citizens that would be interested in being on this board and maybe weren't given the opportunity. However, these other people or citizens that wanted to serve on tourism committee are now doing this, which is fantastic. I don't have anything against anyone. I'm just saying there might be other citizens that would be interested in serving on this board. Of course, this is the East Ward, thing, so I personally, we can proceed the way that it is now if everybody is okay with that. But I would just hate for us to go forward with this and somebody say, hey, well, I live on the east side and I'm interested and I want to be on this board. That's all. But we can vote on it.
So you're saying, Barbara, we can go ahead and, if we want to pull the board piece out of it, we can still approve the TERS as it is for second reading and then address the TERS board separately?
There was no notification overall, was there? There was no advertisement for people to let them know that this was happening.
So as I said, the mayor made a list and talked to the people, I'm assuming.
I think it actually came from people who wanted to be on the tourism board.
Right.
And they weren't picked because they're of a limited number, so they just used those applicants and
And you're saying
populated
maybe put
this.
it out to the public.
Yeah, right, because I do believe you guys put out the tourism committee, and I did see a lot of people interested.
We had 14
Well,
or
not a
15.
lot, but there's people interested, so maybe if we put this out, it would carry the same interest.
Perhaps.
I think I would like to see that. Do we
Let's
know
have
if,
some dialogue, what do y'all think?
I'm open to.
do any of those people live and/or have businesses in this area,
In the reinvestment zone?
in the reinvestment zone?
There's not that many people who live in this. It's mostly commercial or ag. There's a few folks that live there, but I don't know. I don't think
I know
so.
the cafes, your business is on the east side, right?
Yes, well,
So, I personally would like to see an east side resident be on this board, personally.
Mm-hmm.
well, first you
If there's an applicant, just to have that voice for those residents.
Yes, it's just not to get off in left field. On any board in Rockdale, do they have to be a citizen,
A resident?
a resident?
I'm sorry, I was using the wrong word.
So,
I
mean,
think
meant
generally,
on the Parks
yes,
board or
but-
Any board, do they
Yeah, I
have to
don't
be
know.
a resident of Rockdale?
Okay.
It is?
Shannon says some do, some don't.
So it depends on the board.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
They need to have some tie to our community. There's some boards where you can just be a business owner, some boards you have to be a resident, like you have to be a resident to be on the planning commission or the city council. Some, you can just be interested, have a business,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
I don't recognize some of those names, so I
either.
don't know if they're applicable to any of that. I recognize your name, Jeanette.
I don't know. I would just like to see it. I love the way you did it for the tourism committee, and I would like to see it done that way as well, just to give everybody an opportunity to show interest and apply. Maybe do an application process as well. What do you guys think?
I agree
I
with
agree
you.
with
I
you.
think
Yeah.
let's put it out to the public, not to put any more work on your table, but yeah, I think that way, because there'd be a great person saying, oh, yeah, I'd love to be on that,
Yeah,
if
but
they
they
didn't
didn't
know
know
about
that.
it.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, are you in a huge rush for this, that you need this done?
Well,
quickly?
like Barbara said, the important part is creating the TERS.
Yeah.
Correct.
We can
correct.
set the board later.
So I'll make
Yeah.
a recommendation that we approve the second reading of the ordinance creating the TERS and that we set the board at a later date.
Perfect.
You
I
wanna
second
second
that,
that?
I'll second that, thank you.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
I have a question for Jim. Is 5 a magic number? Could there be more on the committee?
Y'all can put as many as y'all want.
Well, because I'm thinking if 5 people have already been informed that they're a part of a committee, and then we come back later and say, sorry, it seems rather insulting.
How many are typically on the Parks Airport Committee?
It's anywhere from 5 to 7 typically.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Odd number.
Yeah. I wouldn't say you want to get it too big to.
Yeah, 'cause
Not
it's
get
hard to
anything
anything
done, yeah.
and have too many opinions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
y'all.
Thanks, Jim.
B, consider and take any necessary action on the second reading of an ordinance creating a historic landmark preservation program for the city.
And there have been no changes to it. This has actually been brought about by the 1894. This is going to help them with their grant applications. But it's also a really good idea, and I think we're ready as a community to take this on. The ordinance was taken from the Texas Historical Commission. It was theirs, and then just Rockdaled it up. So that's what you have, and there have been no changes since the first reading.
Perfect. I loved it from the beginning, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve line item 8B as read.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second, and I'm going to abstain. It's 1895. You open.
All those in favor?
Motion carries 5-0. Item C, consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding an ordinance. Can you see this? Amendment to landscaping and screening requirements. Mr. Williams, go ahead, sir.
So I don't know what's in your packet, but we reviewed section 14.02.122, landscaping and screening requirements. Under section I, additional required plantings, it read, for every 600 square feet of landscape area, you needed 2 trees and 4 shrubs. That was really crowding the trees themselves, but the people that were trying to establish to our code. So we said, hey, let's amend that to every 1,000 square feet instead of 600.
Any questions on that? I can tell you where it arose. From me trying to develop the piece of property over here, and we got ready to do a landscape plan, and we were planting trees on top of trees, trying to adhere to that 600 square feet per tree. And we were willing to do it, but it basically, it built a fence out of trees around the property.
We had to start somewhere. We found that we didn't really have a standard, so we set a standard, and you showed us that it could be expanded.
So that's how the whole thing came to the surface anyway.
So you can't vote, sir?
I'm not planning on voting on it.
Doug, I know y'all have done great work on this. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second, and I will abstain. Motion carries 5-0. Item D, consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission establishing a site visibility triangle.
Again, not having privy to your packet, our packet had a picture, well, yeah, you see it.
Got this.
Very good. All right. So in reviewing, if I can get the pages to cooperate here, 6.04.001, tall grasses and weeds. just following the sentence that says the right-of-way must maintain a minimum 14-foot vertical clearance. Any landscaping within the site visibility triangle may not exceed 30 inches was what we added. Site visibility being the yellow triangle in the picture. And then chapter 14, section 14.02.004 definition, after it says site plan, under site visibility triangle, we added site visibility triangle. The site visibility triangle in the area formed in an intersection of two public right-of-way lines. Those two sides are 30 feet measured along the intersection right-of-way lines. And that third line is connecting the two sides. That's what we're defining as a visibility triangle. We're doing this for safety. And then under the chapter 14, section 14.02.1222, and then G, placement, we added a sentence that says, no landscaping that exceeds 30 inches can be planted within the site visibility triangle. Questions?
I have a question. Did we discussed this, does this also include other areas than just the triangle? If there's plants or vegetation growing in, other than just a triangle area, I mean, does this include areas outside of that?
We were trying to deal with some situations where people have to creep to the center of the intersection to see the intersection.
Right.
And so we're trying to throttle back on that by not having anything over 30 inches tall. Anything, I mean, if you plant a tree there, if it's possible to grow over 30 inches tall, then it's not allowed in that site visibility triangle.
So let me make sure I'm following you on this. So I'm sure a lot of citizens like myself notice that there's tall grass in a lot of these areas like this. If we pass this ordinance, these citizens would now get ticketed, or they would, what if that is not clear for safety?
Just cut it.
So they get like they get a notice to.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that if you're driving, and the reason it's 30 inches is so that you can turn your head in your vehicle
Right.
and see what's oncoming.
No, and I agree with it. I mean, there's that, I love it, and I know.
I'd ask you what your hem length is in it's close to 30 inches, so, you're talking pretty tall. About the window of a sedan, the bottom part of the window of a sedan is in the 30
I think
inch.
it's absolutely necessary. I just didn't know how it was gonna be handled in the case where now we have an ordinance, how we're gonna, if it's gonna be coding, not coding, code enforcement, or who was gonna handle that.
Hi,
It'll be
Ben.
Code enforcement, but it will be through education. That's how you start.
Okay, education. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
In that, and it's 6 feet, it's 30 inches and 6 feet coming from above, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I also noticed in there that there's a 14-foot on the streets,
We've had that
tree.
that's been in place for a long time for school buses and
trash trucks and moving.
Amazon and, now I have to name all of them if I start. Delivery vans, school buses.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not looking to, we're still gonna enforce that the best we can, but we're not looking to have a bunch of people trimming big limbs that are hanging over the street that have been there for years and years. It will destroy the tree if they cut them. We're not, okay. Sure, I'll let you ask a question.
Also, you're saying about trees growing together, there's a lot of trees that are growing together, and if you get a bad storm, you're gonna have a hell of a mess to clean up.
That's overstepping our bounds, getting into that
Well, I mean, it's true. If you
thing,
don't
so
trim up, that's what happens.
we have to look at them from a safety standpoint from the streets and public use, so.
Her
but
point
I
was
agree.
more on the 1,000 square foot tree spacing
Oh,
requirement than it really is on the visibility one, but we're trying to create safety
Safe
at our
intersections.
intersections. Yes,
Sure.
sir.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance D as read.
I'll second
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. You still up, Doug?
Yes,
Consider
sir.
and take any necessary item, let me back up. Kira, I skipped you on 8B.
That's okay.
Are you good?
I was actually signing in case there was any questions.
Okay, I just looked down and realized you were on 8. I apologize. All right, since you're good with my mistake, we will move on to item E. Consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding an ordinance amendment to the replacement tree definition for Chapter 10 to refer to Texas A&M website.
So to save a tree, we're trying to limit the amount of paperwork we generate. In the past, the requirements listed the trees, may be inclusive, maybe not inclusive. In order to make it a little bit easier, we just put a reference to the recommended trees or native trees to this area as recommended by, say it again, you got it before you? Texas A&M,
website.
yeah. In other words, instead of sitting dogwood and beechwood and bumping, we just go to that site, you see what's there, that's what you can plant or should plant.
Okay? Any questions?
Make a motion that we take planning and zoning's recommendation in approving this as read.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item F, consider and take any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance amending the fee schedule for building permit and inspection fee for the third-party review and inspection services.
This is getting us ready for Cornerstone. Spencer cannot keep up with the level of permits that are going to be coming quickly. And I thought we could do it in January, and then I was advised by people who've worked with these builders before that they're going to start providing permits in November. And so, because we're going to have to do a pass-through fee for whatever we're being charged, and then we're going to add 10% just for our time. So what we're asking is, Ben has put together the ordinance. We have a representative here from the third-party inspection, and we will call them when they're needed. And then you have their fees that they have provided, and then in the actual ordinance, we've done their fees plus a 10%.
Let me ask you on the, because I know we briefly talked about this several meetings ago, about the 10% fee. How does that still align us with other towns? We sure don't want to be under them.
We could be under them, but depending on who's on a third-party contract, this should put us about in line, although 10% is probably the minimum that people charge. If you're going to speak, would you go to the podium, please? Thank you, sir.
What's your name, sir?
My name's Steven with AOK Engineering.
All right, thank you.
And I would say the 10% puts you right about middle of the pack. I've seen fees as high as 50% in some cities, which is very high. But the standard, I would say, is 10 to 15 is usually pretty standard across the board.
Well, I'm not implying that we need to gouge people, but I think we definitely need to recoup our costs and maybe plus some, because there's gonna be a lot of expenses. I think, Roxanne, you talked a while back, is it gonna get on your desk as well? At some time, any of these, or? Yeah, or the paperwork. But, I mean, we wanna make sure we cover our bases on this.
We can go 15%. I was trying to keep it as conservative as possible.
I know. I just, like I said, I don't want us to be
So
losing money on them.
how will the inspection service work now? I come to City Hall and pull a permit, and then when I'm ready for inspections, I go to these guys, or I
You
come
call
back to
us,
the city?
and we
They call.
call them.
And then we just mark it up 10%.
Yeah, and we can work with the city. I know the IT guy just left, but we've put it in place with other cities where we put it in the website. We build it into the website to where contractors can actually, once they pull the permit, and they actually have a permit number, they can go in and schedule the inspection on the website, or they can do it directly with City Hall, and then it goes straight to us, and we schedule it immediately.
Is there I didn't do as much homework on this as I would like to. I noticed you have a virtual
Yes, sir.
inspection. capabilities. Is there a different fee for a virtual versus a person coming in person? And the only reason I ask this is the first thing that's gonna happen is they said, charge me the same thing and they didn't even come out here.
Right. Yeah, so it typically it's the same cost, and the reason it's the same cost usually is because the report that goes along with it. So on the virtual side, it's more labor intensive, right? So when you have an in-person inspector, usually they're doing pass or fail. Right then and there, they let them know, hey, this is a pass, this is a fail. Here's why. If they're courteous enough, they'll say, hey, here's why. Here's what's going on. Fix this, and reschedule the inspection. On the virtual side, we provide them with a full report breaking down every piece of it. They have it in writing. The city gets a copy as well. And so, generating that report, I can pull an example as well of that report so you all can see it. But it is labor intensive. It takes a few hours to knock out that report, and so that's the only reason. But it is something where we've talked about the scale of how many permits are going to come through, and if it is something where we are able to do virtual and we're doing that many permits over the next couple years with this subdivision coming in, we may be able to knock it down on the virtual end.
Is there cost savings to the city, if you come out for one and you do three? Is there cost savings associated with that?
It's on a per permit type of basis. Yeah, I mean, each permit is paying for the full process essentially, especially in what we're talking about as far as new builds. They pay for the plan review process as well as the full inspection, and we do everything. I think it's 12 inspections, and those are all included in that one fee. Those inspections plus the plan review.
Excuse me, where we will save money is because the developer's gonna have maybe 5 units. We will only do plan review once for those 5 units. The staff will actually do the site planning portion of it, but they won't have to review Unit A over and over and over. There'll be one plan review fee, and then we'll do the site planning, and then they will come in and do the inspections.
Okay. And do you all, are y'all inspecting in-house, or are y'all administering to third party?
No, every one of our employees is employed through our company. We don't contract out.
Okay. Consistency is why I ask.
Yes,
You
sir.
tell me to do it one way, and this guy tells me to do it another way.
Exactly.
And, okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't see it in here. Can you tell me what other cities you've worked with?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, we're in the final stages with the city of Manor, Lakeway, and we work with quite a few cities down in San Antonio, just south of San Antonio, Kennedy, Pleasanton. We handle their entire building departments. Bernie as well, the city of Bernie. And then our corporate headquarters is in Fort Worth, so we work with a few cities, DeSoto, Boyd, city of Keene. Just off the top of my head, that's what I can think of. I know we just signed the city of Eagle Pass down on the border. We work with Brownsville and Fort Worth just to do plan review specifically. So we work with quite a few different cities, different sizes.
I'm just curious, I didn't
Yes, ma'am.
see it in the packet either, if somebody referred you to us or you came to us or we looked for you. I'm just.
Did we put out an RFP for this, or?
I've been
that was my only
looking,
question.
and so we have been interviewing various people.
Okay.
I got this as a recommendation from fellow planners who are out there. There's 3 or 4 in the area, and they came recommended.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Contract
And what
for
is
1
it?
year, or
Yeah,
how
what
does
is
it
it?
work?
It's only, we'll sign it, but we only call them as needed.
So
Yes.
if we got mad at you, we just don't call them again and we go to somebody else?
We make the contract very flexible to where there's no commitment. If you guys are not happy with our service, like she said, it's as needed. Any area that you need us, we're there to help. And I believe it's 45-day, just lead time to let us know that you want to terminate a contract. But once we sign on, for the most part, we really haven't had any issues.
Fair enough.
No other questions?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance F as read.
I'll second that motion. I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we settle a percent?
Yeah, it's 10%.
10%. As read, as provided. All right. Number 9, workshop. Conduct a workshop regarding community safety. Where does this, whose workshop is this? This is Dave's?
Well,
Dave's request? Go ahead.
It's probably been 5+ months ago when we were setting our priorities for the year. Community safety was one that Councilman Oliveris brought up, and I think we all agreed on that. And so we're 5 months in, and I don't know, if not now, when. But I'm thinking of this subject rather broadly. The first thing I was thinking is that I know that there are some accomplishments that we've had already, whether those are mandated accomplishments such as the school resource officers, but other things, stop signs at intersections where they didn't exist. And so I think we need to have a strategy to make sure that we are communicating that to the city so that they know that we as a council are following up on a pledge to try to do better and to keep our community safe. But then after that, just a few things. Are there additional troublesome intersections that we need to be addressing? I'm not a fan of speed bumps, but as far as I know, I see a couple speed bumps over at the splash pad, and I think I see some by the tennis courts. Those are the only ones I see, and because I live on a block where the school, elementary school is, and I regularly see people speeding and blowing through stop signs at the corner of College and Belton, I think that that's something. I brought up once recently that I think, I know this year's budget is already set, but I think we need to start thinking ahead about security cameras. We have no cameras in our library or outside our library. I don't know what we have here at City Hall, but I watch enough, television where I see where crimes and different things can be solved because there are cameras on intersections and they see cars and trucks passing by that have been involved in things. And so I think security cameras. Are there lighting concerns? And then lastly, I just had a question, and first of all, I want to say I hope everybody's able to show up tomorrow night for Rockdale Night Out. I do thank our police department and all of our officers, and I support them fully. But I do have a question that's going to take us back about 8 or 9 months, and I don't mean to pull a scab off of anything, but you may recall that there was an incident where we had a very long, protracted, high-speed chase that took place in our town. It came down my block multiple times, multiple law enforcement, I believe, burning through stop signs. I think many of us here have heard it, or heard all the noise. At the end of the day, 30 minutes, 35 minutes later, there were 2 law enforcement cars, one which was totaled. Neither of these were Rockdale, I understand, and one was severely wrecked, and the fugitive got away. Well, I think that we need to ask and make sure that our local police, as well as others, did they do their due diligence in keeping the community safe when we have children along West Belton Avenue who ride their bicycles, who walk their dogs, who do stuff, and we had this going on. It just seemed like after 30, 35, that should have been called off much sooner. And we didn't get anything out of it. And I'm sorry, like I said, I'm not trying to embarrass or put down anyone. I'm thankful, but I do think that we need to find out if we really followed the policy that we have. And another question, when you have Milam County and you have Rockdale and you have state troopers, everybody involved in the chase, are you able to communicate with one another in your car? You are, okay. Who has the jurisdiction, who has the authority to say, let's cut this off?
Well, I have the authority over my officers. If the sheriff's department's in the chase and the sheriff wants his officers to continue chasing, the city is in the county, and they can keep doing that. The county is in the state, so if a trooper wanted or a game warden wanted to continue on, they can continue on. according to their policies and procedures. But ultimately, if we terminated the pursuit, I would think the other agency would probably follow suit, and they would pull their guys back. But it's their prerogative to do that, and they would face the consequences of that.
I don't want to hog the conversation, but I just think this is a discussion. We set it as a priority. Let's make sure we're putting teeth to it, make sure we're improving everything that we do. And like I said, I've seen news stories where an innocent person at a stoplight has had their life taken or, seriously injured because a car involved in a chase that was maybe not necessary. Something's happened to them.
I agree with you, and it's a double-edged sword. I feel like you don't want to feel like I can do this and nobody's going to pursue me. And on the flip side, it's what you're describing.
So if I can address the pursuit issue, so that pursuit was initiated by my officers. They identified a subject that was wanted on a couple of felony warrants. I believe they were drug warrants, not violent offenses, but drug warrants. And the pursuit began when they tried to initiate a traffic stop. I agree. The way that pursuit was handled that day was not according to department policy, and would not be something I would want going on in the city limits of Rockdale. It was dangerous from what I understand. I had just come back from vacation and had literally changed my clothes and hopped on my lawnmower, and I got a call from the highway patrol sergeant. He told me, hey, there's something going on in your town. I thought you probably had fire you. And I turned on my radio, and the pursuit was over. As soon as I turned on the radio, the guy had bailed out and wrecked us. In any case, upon reviewing it, when I got back, I met with every member of my agency and reviewed that and told them this can't happen. The guy, we knew who he was, we knew where he lived. There's other avenues we can do. So when it becomes the reward for catching this person the risk to the public outweighs the reward of catching this person at this moment, we should always terminate. The safety of the public should be paramount. I had this guy just killed an officer or an innocent person or something like that. You let that risk go a little bit further. That's a judgment call at that time, and ultimately a supervisor is brought into that conversation, and we kind of make that determination to terminate or not. But over what that pursuit was over, it shouldn't have happened like that, period. And it's been addressed since then. But that should not have happened. I agree. I believe the citizens in general were put risk on that deal, and everybody got television, and every agency was involved with television on that guy. Now, he did get away. We ended up arresting him a couple weeks later because we knew who he was and where he hung out, and we'd be smarter about doing our job. So yeah, that to me was a fail on behalf of my agency. And hopefully we can address that with both.
Barbara, go ahead.
No, thank you for bringing this up, Dave, and thank you, Chief, for everything you do. I think most recently what we've been trying to do is it's been ongoing conversation and supporting the school district with their new requirements of resource officers, which for me has been a great decision. But of course, that is an ongoing conversation. So as to how we're going to continue to follow up, we're still having those conversations. But I think we definitely should bring it up maybe once a month or every 2 months, because it's definitely a priority. I'm Mayor. I'm sorry. Go.
May I give input on some other communications I've been seeing? There's been, do you want me to go, Mike? I've seen a lot of chatter in the community also about some severe concerns about, which is really actually two things that both relate back to TxDOT, is needing to do something at the intersection where the intermediate school road comes out. And I actually pulled it up on Google Maps, and I was shocked that there was only one road in and out. So I know that's a everyday occurrence, for school. And so that's maybe something that, we need to work cooperatively with TxDOT on, and also working cooperatively with TxDOT on addressing the stop signs at Bell Street on Main and Ackerman, because I see every day trucks, dump trucks and the MSI trucks fly right through those stop signs. They're looking at the light ahead and they fly right through the stop sign. So, these are all three of those are TxDOT, and I think we really need to be addressing those safety concerns with TxDOT. And I thought they need to put the flashing lights on the Bell Street stop signs, just to draw further awareness to that. So,
All good points.
I know planning and zoning address that. I don't want to I'll let Chairman Williams explain it.
So we are actually looking at some safety issues, and one of the ones that we identified was that intersection at the elementary school. Part of the problem we have is 2 different speeds through there, and as far as planning goes, we can't put in any more driveways with the speed set that it is. So we're workshopping right now, trying to get with TxDOT, trying to get the speed limit set down, and if possible, some kind of a light. I'm not gonna say stoplight or whatever. And just because you have a stoplight doesn't mean people will stop. So, but it's been identified as a unsafe situation for the buses trying to pull out onto the highway there. Well, for everybody involved with going in and out of that location. But again, it's not a city street. So we have to play games. We have to engineer what we do through TxDOT.
And, along those lines, recently at TML, we met some gentlemen that's what he does, traffic engineering, and he gave us his contact. I wonder if he could help us out with that, or do we just call TxDOT? Or we partner with them?
We are in conversation with TxDOT at this time.
We've asked for a traffic study to be performed at that location to address speeds, so that we can get some sort of a caution light at least, or maybe a red light during school.
They had some of those counters on the west side of Rockdale. I'm not sure any farther in, but they track traffic count and speed. And I saw them also in Thorndale and outside of Taylor. So they're probably looking at a comprehensive plan through there. Again, it's out of our, we can wish and hope, but what we get may not be what we wish and hope for, so.
I know it's on the school's mind too. They're under a bond right now, and I know that they were trying to address that, but their hands are tied as well, but they would like it fixed. So,
I mean,
it's being pursued by a lot of different directions.
We're bogged down on a couple of our projects in planning and zoning, and we're literally doing something that Doug Williams does not like to do. I do not like to kick the can. Some of the things we're trying to accomplish may or may not be addressed by Freeze and Associates. So we're kind of in a holding pattern on some of our projects, but we are moving forward on the safety aspect at the intermediate school. Now you can pressure us, or you can send us an assignment, but it doesn't mean we can accomplish anything.
Could we maybe see if we can partner with the traffic engineer to help us with this project? I mean, you guys have a lot on your plate, and this is what they do.
TxDOT has their own traffic engineers, and that's who they're gonna use. What would be helpful is I've told TxDOT that's important to the city, but if we could get a resolution in front of the council and you resolve that it's important, and we maybe get the school board to do that, that's something that they will pay attention to more so than just me saying it's important.
They are currently also in the stages of redoing 487 and 908. So we're gonna have at least a 3-headed monster here in a little while, so.
And TxDOT just informed me last week that they are starting their sidewalk project that's gonna go from Milam to Bell, and I brought up the issue with the stop sign, so I will reiterate that with them again, that we've got an issue with people running that stop sign.
Who puts the little? Can we at
whoever-
least ask them to go ahead and put some of the little flashing lights on those stop signs to draw your attention?
Great minds think alike. We have addressed that issue, and we looked into some costs on that, so, yeah.
Yeah, but that'll be a TxDOT decision again, but we can
Yeah.
certainly ask them.
So, to put together a resolution, is that something that
We would do.
staff would draft and bring to the next council meeting possibly?
Yes, sir.
And, okay. And
If you have issues like that, Dave, I mean, you can tell us, you can bring it forward to us, and if it's in our wheelhouse, we'll try to address it.
I have one other thing. I hadn't put a note down, but I know that our police department does this, and I know that if you are a bartender or a business, but we have new businesses in town, and more coming, and these are businesses that serve beer and alcohol. And to me, our population's growing, our traffic will be growing, but it also means that there may be more issues with people who are at one of our places and drink too much. And I think that if there's anything that Chief, that you and your staff can do going around to these different businesses and reminding them that they could be legally liable if something happens or someone leaves their place intoxicated, that they should have been cut off earlier. I'd like to see that happen too.
So to address that as well, we have begun a couple months back doing random what we call bar checks and checking THC licenses and the employees' licenses and doing just that. And we haven't done that, as far as I know, ever. Discussed that with my staff, and yeah, let's start doing that. Just as a friendly reminder, I'm not trying to get into a bar's business or anything, but hey, these laws are in place for a reason. And just to make sure that we're all compliant with them for everybody's safety. And so we've already started doing that.
And that takes me back, I guess, to is that there are things that we're doing. Thank you. I didn't know about that. And so I was pleased a couple times to hear Barbara on the radio updating, seeing articles in the newspaper. And I just think that we can't do enough of letting the citizens know these kind of things so that they know that we're taking this serious. Thank you.
Now, I will say some of these establishments are not very happy that we're doing that. I've gotten a lot of phone calls, but, you know, not trying to hurt anybody's business. We want them to maintain business.
That's right.
We just want to be safe.
Barbara, would you also ask the IT guys what it would take for them to support remote cameras at some locations?
We're actually having to replace our cameras because the people who are doing it are no longer responding to us. And so we have 9 or 12, 15 or whatever we have here, whatever we have over at the police department. His guy actually passed away. So we're in the process of looking at getting new cameras, and we could do some remote. So yes, sir, I will be happy to do that.
Is that something to ask the Parks Board for their wish list? And make sure they understand it's a wish list of where, yeah, I get it. I know.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Real quick.
Okay, real quick. Talking about speeding, Meadows and Highway 79, I've been at that light 3 times. Every time I'm at that stoplight, there's people that run the red light going east and west. And another one, about cameras, why can't they just get wildlife cameras? That's what they use in the border, and put it.
Security?
For when they're down on the border, they use the wildlife cameras.
I mean, how would you employ that here? For what purpose is my question? Yeah.
Whatever you need to. It's just little wildlife cameras hidden. You can't see them. You can catch.
We can't use the cameras for traffic enforcement, is what I was asking.
No.
That's been
I'm
ruled
talking
unconstitutional.
about other crime.
All right. Anything else on the workshop? Anything? I will consider that workshop done. I don't think, do we need a motion to be done with that? We're done with it. All right. Action items. 10A. Consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation from the city manager regarding a request submitted by the Chamber of Commerce for funding from the hotel motel tax fund for the visitor center.
Yes, sir. They have asked for $40,000 this year. They're more typically have been in the $20,000-$25,000 range. And so what I'm recommending is that we split their expenses, and their expenses are coming in just at 65, and that would put us funding them at 32,882. And this is absolutely approvable under hot funds, visitor centers. It does not need to put heads in beds. It's just as a visitor center, it is an allowable expense under hot funds.
And is that something that we feel like is utilized by people coming into Rockdale? Is it advertised as a visitor center for Rockdale? If I Google Rockdale, Texas, does it say go to the Chamber of Commerce because that's the visitor center? How does someone know that that's a visitor center?
Well, let's,
Yeah, we do have it on the signage. It is, there on the logo, it says, Rockdale Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. It's, has the sign out front that says the same. So it's in the, all of the brochures that we hand out. We do, good bit of social media. We're fixing to also add, more presence on Instagram. We see that, we don't have a lot of presence there now. So we are gonna start doing that. We do have quite a few people that come. I mean, it's not a huge amount. Of course, we don't have a lot of folks that are just coming into Rockdale just to see what's happening. But we do try to, advertise. We have the depot, we have the, things like that, that we let them know that we have places here in town for them to go to. Farmers market is another thing that we do, really advertise for folks that are coming this way to know that we have that available to them. It's staffed 9 to 5 every day. It's right there on the highway. You can't miss it. Can't miss that orange roof. So I think they know, once they come into town, they know what it is.
Is there any hesitation for it being the city visitor center if it's a city visitor center, but you're not associated with the chamber, is that a conflict? I know it became a big issue on East Bell Tap House when that first came to the surface. They're a business of the city. They're not a member of the chamber, but this is a city visitor center. I just want to make sure that.
Well, if you don't mind, if I could say something first, we did just have a strategic planning workshop last Friday, and one of the things that was brought up by Taylor, she's one of our board members, is that we're going to start splitting how we advertise a little bit. We're going to make sure that this is the visitor center when we make posts, and it'll be very clear this is for the visitor center, so that would encompass all the businesses in town. And then we'll also have our regular chamber members where we're advertising for them, so that we can make sure that, those members are, they get the advertisement that they expect. But we are going to split that a little bit so that there will be a larger presence just for the visitor center, so we can make sure that all the businesses in town get, we address them.
And what is the half of the 68 or 64?
It's almost 33.
No,
Yeah.
what is that half of? Is that for the person manning the?
it's all their expenses.
Okay.
Then I have a question for new businesses that come into town. Is there anyone from the chamber that goes out to recruit them, or how does that work?
That isn't something that we've done a whole lot of. They, the chamber is there. We do put out information. Anybody that's new that comes to town, we have visitor bags at all the hotels, so they know that, we are there. We haven't done a lot of recruitment, but that, like I said, when we met last Friday, that was something that we talked about, that we really do need to put a stronger presence to go out and, talk to new folks. And we do get a lot of people that just walk in and say, hey, I'm a new business, because they assume the chamber, that's what they do. They sign up with the chamber as a new business. But yeah, we need to do that better.
I agree.
More like a outreach kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody knows all the services that we have, so yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying new businesses that start up in town.
As long as we know that they start up, sometimes they just are working out of their house or something, maybe we don't know, but if they're, if we know that they're available to talk to, then we do try to reach out to them.
Nobody's reached out to me.
All right, Barbara, the last time the city funded was, do you know what that amount was?
Last time was 40.
Oh, you mean this?
I thought it was 2025 previously. I thought that's what you had just said.
Yeah.
And then last year we did get 40.
Oh, y'all got 40.
Okay.
And I did want to make a note. There are some things that we were going to try to, make sure that we do with these funds this time. Back in 2020, we had the dining guide and things like that the city paid for. But we would like to update that. It's changed obviously considerably since 2020. There's a few things that we need to update and things we would like to provide, in the visitors' bags that we take out to the hotels and places. So if you would like to consider that, then that's something we'd like to be able to do with those funds.
Well, y'all have heard it all. Questions? Anything?
I'll make a motion that we approve the $32,882 for the Rockdale Chamber of Commerce for annual hot funds for hosting a visitor center.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries
thank you.
6-0. Item B, consider and take any necessary action on the recommendation to the city council regarding the plat submitted by Shannon Cornegie for property located at 329 East Highway 79, Rockdale, Texas, Milam County, into Lot 2A and 2B.
Just a minute. Has there been any,
I've reached out to Brad with Triad, and we have not heard word from him.
any update on you on the request?
Just that Shannon's fine with it, so once we get in touch with him, he'll be good with it too.
Hello.
Hello, Doug.
Welcome back.
The more I see you, the more I see Santa. I'm ready.
We're getting closer.
I'll make a red hat for him.
So
I'm ready.
In December.
we pass this on to you. Should be two little footnotes on that. Dedicate an easement for the overhead power lines on Lot 2B, and then specify the variance request on Building A and Building G on 2A. And that's the question I was asking them, since it's been a week since it came to us and now, and just see if there was any action on that where we could strike it. So I don't know what's in your packet, so I would have to go off of what's in my packet. So anyway,
And this is the storage buildings, right, they built out there? Is that the spot? Okay.
so one lot has access to Highway 77, the other lot has access to Highway 79.
What? It says need,
That should be a UE, utility easement.
Okay.
You have to designate the utility easement, and then the other two that were in question were down here, the variances for those two buildings.
and what variances are we giving to those two buildings?
Setbacks.
Setbacks,
Setbacks.
But those were existing buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
All it does is acknowledge what's on the ground.
Where does the Goodson property tie into all this?
It's this one right here.
Goodson,
It's this triangle right here, right?
It's gonna be over here.
you own that too? Oh,
He's looking at it.
No, I'm not. I don't want nothing to do with that.
Here's the guy that lives on the side. So here's,
that was the only two things, it would have passed with flying colors except for those two issues.
yes,
The utility easement, it's coming down the front of that property and then turning and
Correct.
going
Yeah.
east?
Comes along.
And that's overhead power.
We
so-
like to have designated utilities. Blanket utilities get you into a lot of
Oh, yeah.
drama.
So,
I mean,
Do
if
we
they're
know-
already there, we just need to have it noted that there is an easement or an agreement to an easement.
so are we waiting on something from Triad to say that they can have this or can't have this, or?
the owner's already said yes. So Triad will just draw it on the
Draft it.
plat.
Okay. All right. Anything?
If you recommend it,
Make a motion,
approval?
As long, yeah, with the notations.
make a motion that we approve the plat subject to the following conditions, that we dedicate an easement for the overhead power line on Lot 2B, and that we specify the variance request for Building A on Lot 2A.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item C, can take, excuse me, consider and take any necessary action on a request from Jamal Williams to lease vacant property on Texas Street for an equestrian operation.
The Williams came to see me, they want to move in some horses, and they were looking at some of the lands owned by the city, and the ones that they looked at were the ones on Texas Street that I don't think it's ever been put into use. Would pay us $100 a month. The value of the property is about $3,400, so in a year, we would make.
Oh, shit, she went down.
Oh, no.
All right. Oh, goodness, now I can't. Thought you said you were going to work later.
I know, 7:30. Started my shift early today. No,
You have any
you're
excuse
good,
to delay?
you're good.
For all your concern.
All right, we will pick up where we left off, I think.
Jamal Williams on the, you said it
Jamal
was
Williams.
$30-something hundred a year, is what it.
It'd be $1,200 a year, and so you'd be getting a third of the value a year. And what they would agree to do is they would fence it, they would, get the water meter, and chief wants to make sure that they keep it fenced so the horses aren't out on anybody's road. But it's back in an area that really is not.
Is it the two properties highlighted there?
Yeah, it's actually 14 lots.
Okay.
So, and I mean, it's back on Texas, so it seems like a decent use for it until somebody decided they wanted to percent.
And this won't put any additional work on city staff?
Nope, just bringing a little bit of extra money to the city.
Is this out there by Rising Star? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. How far?
Way.
Towards Rising Star Baptist Church.
You're going towards Rising Star.
Aren't there horses already out there?
There's to the left,
Oh,
aren't there?
There's already some horses out there.
But that's on the White's property, I think.
Oh yeah, Miss White's property.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I like the idea of this, and I mean, any property that, that we're not using and we can generate some type of revenue.
Put it to use.
I love it. Supports the country
I think if it
culture.
generates revenue and it doesn't put a burden on city staff.
Yeah, great.
Do it.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve, what item is it? 4C.
See,
10C.
10C.
As read.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries, Isme? 6-0.
Sorry.
10D, consider and take any necessary action on park board appointments.
So are the two people that need to be reappointed, they want to be on there, Barbara? Has anybody reached out to them?
Everybody wants to be, some have served faithfully, and some have served passionately.
I mean,
Shannon, did you write that?
That's 2 weeks ago.
Well done. Well
Can I go ahead and, Mayor, can I interject and just brag on Shanna real quick? Perfect. So we went to TML this weekend, and like many of y'all know, usually I wear 6-inch heels. That was a bad idea for a TML conference. Well, about halfway in, I couldn't even walk anymore, and Shanna was with me. She was like, Esme, you can't even walk. I said, I know, it's okay, I'll just sit. She's like, I'll wear your shoes for you. So best secretary ever. She wore my red heels, and I wore her flats, so thank you again. Aside from that, no,
Worth her weight in gold.
she organized everything for us, and we had a great time. Thank you, Shanna.
I'll second that. Good job, Shanna.
Good job, Shanna.
On the park board appointment.
Sorry.
Making her blush.
Anybody have anything, any objection or any thoughts
Make
on?
a motion, we accept it as read.
Yeah, accept it as read.
I'll second it.
Thank you for your service.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. You are all free to go home. Meeting adjourned.
Do this again?